Greetings and salutations, my dear audience. This is Joe St. Egg Benedictus, just coming at you with a Bible review. Actually, more than just a Bible review. It's not necessarily a new Bible, but rather a Bible that I found at my local used bookstore. It's a treasure. Just want to give a shout out to my pal Mike and to all the visionaries and mystics out there. Thank you for joining me. Whenever I find a treasure at my used bookstore, I want to bring it to you, especially when it's a Bible, and not just any Bible, but a beautiful Bible at that, one that is in amazing shape. This is none other than the New Testament in modern English by JB Phillips, published from Macmillan, in a beautiful, genuine leather, black binding. It's actually very nice. Look at that beautiful gilded edging. And what makes this a rare treasure is two things. First, this is the original 1959 edition. The translation actually came out in 58, but this is a 59. What makes this unique and original is that JB Phillips revised this in the early 1970s, but this is the unrevised version. And the next thing that makes it so incredible is that it was only $1. I mean, you can't beat that, right? So first thing I want to do is just walk through very briefly the translation, the philosophy behind the translation, and then actually review the book itself, because it is a real beauty. Again, look at that beautiful gold. How sweet it is. Anyhow, JB Phillips was a London pastor who in the late 30s, early 40s worked with youth in London, of course. And during that time, the war was starting to rev up in Europe. And Pastor Phillips noted that his students, younger students in his church, did not really understand the language of the Bible of the time. He had an interest in languages as well as reaching youth within that area. And so he took it upon himself to translate the epistles into from Greek into a translation, what we call a paraphrase translation, which is not necessarily literal or word for word, but rather the language of the original manuscripts translated into a paraphrase form so that other general readers can read it. He really just had a heart for young people. He came out with that translation in starting in 1951. Again, the Paul's epistles, published in 1947, actually. C.S. Lewis read his translation and called the book of Colossians specifically. He said, C.S. Lewis said of Colossians, it was like seeing a familiar picture after it's been cleaned. Another way of saying that JB Phillips kind of hit the nail on the head with both readability as well as understanding, providing people with an understanding of the Bible. He came out with the epistles, then he did the Gospels in 1952, Acts in 55, Revelation in 57, and then the entire New Testament, as I mentioned, in 1958. He later came out with sections of the Old Testament, but never did the whole Old Testament, and really kind of became known for the JB Phillips New Testament, or as we like to call it, the New Testament in modern English. One of the things that he did, which we'll look at, is just put it in paragraph form. Not a lot of bells and whistles, not a lot of verse numbers. He has the chapters and several other things that we'll look at. First, let's look at this beautiful Bible. For one, it is very difficult to get the New Testament in modern English. Again, the 1950 version, this is 1959, in such just really nice shape. It has a little bit of fraying on the corners here, as you can see. The gilding, as I mentioned more than once, is just nice. It has the nice ribbed spine here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ribs. You can see the publisher, Macmillan, nice gilding there. The back is in good shape. There's this little thing here, if you can see it. Let me see if I can get up, which says really small, genuine leather. Now, the one thing I did do was add a ribbon. I have had this for a short time, and I wanted to add a ribbon because I actually started reading it and really just fell in love with the translation. So let's take a look. It has this like textured vinyl paste down, not vinyl, but paste down kind of, I don't know, it's almost like woven together, almost like a textured grainy paper, cardstock kind of paper. We have several pages of several blank pages. Then the publisher, the Macmillan Company, Dallas, New York, Chicago, London. The New Testament in Modern English, translated by JB Phillips, 1959. You have the publications of all the parts of the New Testament. This is probably one of the few Bibles where you'll find a dedication to somebody other than, the Lord, to Vera, my wife and finest critic. I really appreciate that. I think it's humorous and just gives you the sense of the humanity of the book, as well as the passion behind the book. He does do a translator's foreword that you can read if you ever get your hands on one of these Bibles. His philosophy, to kind of break it down, is that he took the Greek New Testament and he translated. The first thing he did was do a wooden literal translation from Greek to English without using any other translations. He just did it straight from the Greek. Then he took his translation, his wooden literal translation, and then rewrote it into prose, readable prose. And what he did, again, without using any translations. So what he did was he had that two-step process, from Greek to literal word-for-word rendering, and then the word-for-word rendering into prose, and then went from there. Again, having people like C.S. Lewis review it, and others, until he came to a place where there were some faults that he corrected in 1971 when he included renderings from other translations. You'll see the notes from JB Phillips, 1958. Here's the table of contents. And I love these headings, because these are actually the headings of his original translations, like the Gospels, the Young Church in Action, which is the Acts, Letters to the Young Churches. That was his first rendition. Letters to Young Churches, the Epistles. And then he has the Book of Revelation. So we have here the section break, and then, of course, the text. You can see here that it is that it's bound. You can see the thread right there. Let me hold it up a little bit closer. You can see the threading. So it is a bound copy. Again, very, very nice. Very beautiful, in good shape. A little bit of a band there that you can kind of get a sense of. And then you have the heading, the chapter number, and then one verse number to start the paragraph. And that's what really he does. So you have the heading, okay, subheading, or that's the heading of the page number, which is in this Helvetica kind of very old school Art Deco font, which I really love, very reminiscent of the Revised Standard Version. The chapter number and the verse number on the top, same with the inset here. But then you have the heading, the chapter, and the verse, and then the paragraph, then the heading, chapter, and the verse. So single column design, as you can see, reads very much like a book. I started reading it and really just fell in love with it. I plan to read through this New Testament after I get finished reading through the New Testament in the New Living Translation, which I'm currently reading devotionally. So you can see here, let's take a look at the Beatitudes, just to give you a sense of how he translated the Beatitudes. Okay? How happy are the humble-minded, for the kingdom of God is theirs. How happy are those who know what sorrow means, for they will be given courage and comfort. Happy are those who claim nothing, for the whole earth will belong to them. So you kind of get a sense, the happy is kind of a paraphrase, but the Beatitudes, the blessed, can also mean happy. So it's not a bad translation in many sense of the word. The other thing that he's known for are these headings. So he really kind of gets creative, and what you can do is, if you preach a sermon on this section, you can refer to JB Phillips, and you can kind of get a sense of perhaps how to title your sermon. Look at this one, for instance. But Jesus declares that sacrifice for the kingdom will be repaid. And then the next heading. but God's generosity may appear unfair. I really love that kind of sense of heading. He's known for that. It's one of the kind of peculiarities of this particular translation are these headings that you can kind of almost read and are as entertaining as the text itself. Pilate's vain efforts to save Jesus. So as we go through it, we see, again, the sections are broken off into each part. Okay, this is the young church in action, the Acts of the Apostles. And then, as you keep going here, again, you can see it's just a very beautiful edition. This font is most likely a 12-point font, Times New Roman or something similar. So very simple, very, very, just very easy to read. Really do like it. At the end, it doesn't really have any fancy fanfare. It does have an index to the maps. Let me get to that. Short index of names, places, and events. I'm sorry. Short index of names, places, and events. Kind of a somewhat of a concordance, but you can see it doesn't give you verse numbers. It gives you page numbers. So he must have developed this himself as he was reading or writing the book or translating the book. And then you have the maps. So there you go. I misspoke a little bit. But forgive me. I'm very excited about this book, this treasure. The maps, I'm assuming, are Macmillan fare. No color, as you can tell. Very simple. It just differentiates between the bold and dotted lines. So they make do without color. We have about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Really just 5 maps. This one is Paul's Journey number 3. You can see kind of the dotted line. It's a little hard to read. Whoops, obviously. Hold on, I'm going to lose my camera. There we go. It's a little hard to read given the black and white, but again, they try to do the best that they can. Oops, I ripped it a little bit. That's what you get when you get a used Bible. Very fragile paper. Speaking of that, if you look, you can see there's not much bleed through, and it is not line matched, as you can see, but it's very close. It's not line matched, but you really can't see through the paper. It is good quality. By the way, look at this. Do your best to get here before winter, so on and so forth. Paul, just like a letter. Let's see how it starts. Paul, messenger by God's appointment. So, just like you can read this as if Paul is writing it to you. So there you have it, a beautiful New Testament in modern English by JB Phillips. Wonderful gilded edging. Just a little bit of wear and tear here, but what do you expect from a Bible that is nearly 70 years old? Just a wonderful, wonderful edition. Very comfortable, very easy to hold, sits flat. Very easy to read. You can hold it up in bed, read it. You can read it if you're going to evangelize on the street corner, and people will understand what you're saying. This is a treasure. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me, and peace out, dude.